It's the Turnbuckle Bandwagon. My name is Matt D. My guest today, we're doing something a little different. She was a senior editor at Sportskeeda, is a contributor at PWI, and has a new show coming called Talk Pickle. Did I get
Pickle
that right?
talk. Pickle talk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Andrea Hangst. Hangst, is that correct?
that's correct. You got it.
Andrea, how are you? Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Part of what kind of not inspired, but why I wanted to talk to you was you're gonna get Lee Moriarty beat up.
Yeah, I know.
How does that make you feel?
Kind of honored, to be honest. I didn't know that my little column in this month's PWI would catch the eye of Wheeler Yuta.
Yep.
And he's coming for Lee Moriarty, and I think he's already been kind of fired up about it, but I think that's a little bit more gasoline on that fire, apparently.
To give everyone some context, at the last Beyond show, Wheeler Yuta called out IWTV champion Lee Moriarty. This is brought forth by Andrea's column in PWI. I was at that show. I will be at the show next week when that match takes place. Wheeler Yuta versus Lee Moriarty for the IWTV championship. How are you feeling about that match, Andrea? What
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, they're two of the best technicians and just fun to watch, fundamentally sound wrestlers in the indie scene right now. I enjoy pretty much every match I've ever seen involving either Lee or Wheeler Yuta. So having them in the ring together for the IWTV title, I'm really excited about it. Got, Wheeler Yuta, he's a heel now because he's got the beard.
evil Utes. Anyone who watched a Masked Wrestler saw how that went down.
Yeah. And Lee Moriarty, he still has a lot he wants to prove. Like he's a kind of a humble guy. He doesn't really, he wants to be the best wrestler in the independent scene, but he doesn't feel like he's reached that point at this point, even though he's the IWTV champion, even though everybody's running around saying he's the best independent wrestler in North America. So it's gonna be a real test for him, and if he comes out on top, maybe that'll be another boost to his confidence.
Okay, so you've written about the NFL, you've done pro wrestling coverage. What led you to PWI?
They actually reached out to me. Kevin, the editor-in-chief, reached out to me last year. It was like right before we started writing up the blurbs for the 500, but it was like right after the round table meetings where they were like determining the rankings. So it was like right after that, and he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to be a contributor for us? Do you want to write up these things for the 500?" And then from there, helped out with like the rankings for the women's 100. And then he tapped me to do the independent roundup. So yeah, every time the independent roundup shows up in PWI now, that's me.
I mean, and in a world where kind of magazines don't have the cachet they used to, the PWI 500 still carries some weight. I won't ask for like all the secrets, but what's that, putting that list together, like what's that, some of that process like?
It's a lot of discussion. It's just back and forth discussions. We meet like on Zoom or whatever and just kind of talk about it. We kind of all go into it with some idea of how things are going to play out, because there are criteria in terms of how active a wrestler is, win-loss records, titles won, titles lost, those kinds of things. So there are some like objective standards when it comes to exactly how we rank everything. I wasn't part of the 500 rankings, but I was part of the women's 100. So it was just like, it's a general discussion, and it's not as tense as you think it would be. Like people aren't getting super like territorial or whatever. I think the most intense discussion we had in the women's rankings was where Thunder Rosa goes. So.
Oh. I feel like if you're going to have an intense discussion, Thunder Rosa is probably going to be a part of it.
Oh yeah.
And with the 500, it's just like I've noticed, especially over the past couple of years, as more and more independent wrestlers have kind of gotten into higher rankings on the 500. I haven't seen, and being both a sports fan and a wrestling fan, like when the Madden rankings come out every August just before the game drops,
Mhm.
like the fervor I'm seeing around the Madden ratings is the 500 list is kind of getting into that neighborhood.
Oh yeah, yeah. The wrestlers get just as wound up about that anymore
Yeah.
as the NFL players do with the Madden rankings, which I think it's just I think that's more silly for them to get wound up about their ranking in a video game than and it makes to me it makes more sense for the wrestlers to get wound up about their PWI ranking. But you know,
Yeah.
it's all very funny. It's all very
Yeah.
funny, but it's great. You know, it was cool because you know I was working on like the latter part of the list in terms of like the wrestler blurbs that I was writing up, and there were a lot of people from the indies who I enjoy watching, who I'm a fan of. This was their first year in the 500, and then I got to write up, you know, their little blurb, and it was like this is like such an honor because these people are like this is their first time making this list, and I get to write up, you know, summarize the past year of their career, and it's the first time they're on there, and they're people I admire, and so it was like it was kind of an honor. I mean, it was a total honor.
Was there anyone of like the new faces, the new debuts that you took kind of particular pride or like I really like this person, so I'm excited to write this blurb
God,
about?
I like who all did I write up? Billy Dixon was one who is on the list for the first time that I wrote up. I'm trying to think who else. I think I might have written up Blake Christian, but I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a few people. It was very exciting to write them up. So
I mean, in this world, I mean, without kind of putting any shot in it, it's this space can be very male dominated, very white. Being a woman coming in, was there any like not I want to say adverse reaction, but did you feel any type of way about getting into this space?
I mean, sure. I mean, you know, I spent about almost a decade covering NFL, and there's not a lot of women who. I mean, now there's a lot more, but like when I
Yeah.
started, definitely a lot fewer. So I just like to just do my own thing. I mean, like I'm aware of it. You know, you'll you know get pushback from jerks, you know, on social media, of course, and
Mm.
then they just like, you're a woman, whatever. But I mean, it was you know, now there are women in the PWI 500, women who do a lot of intergender matches and stuff like that. So that's cool to be able to like work on the 500 this year, and there's women included in that list. So you know, that's why I feel like some things are kind of shifting a little bit. There are definitely more and more women involved in pro wrestling media, but there aren't a lot of women at the top tier where they're like,
Right.
you know, you can make money, make a career out of it. And
Yeah.
so that's the next step.
Yeah, like Thunder Rosa basically taking Mission Pro Wrestling,
Hmm.
rebooting it as an all women's promotion, and like her whole crew, as I understand it, is women.
Hmm.
Everyone who is in decision making positions, all women. Her camera
Hmm.
crew, all women. I mean, I was like, that's awesome. Like, and again,
Oh, it's great.
I see jerks on social media complain. I'm like, what are you complaining about? There are a bajillion promotions with dudes running everything.
Yeah.
This is one promotion in Texas. I don't get it. I don't get it. What was the biggest, you covered football. What was the biggest from writing about the NFL to writing about pro wrestling? Was there any kind of changeover, or had you been a wrestling fan so it was just kind of easy to shift mentally?
Yeah, it was easy to shift mentally. I've been a wrestling fan more than I've like longer than I've been an NFL fan. I've been
Yeah.
a wrestling fan since I was like 8 years old. So it was pretty easy for me. It was the space that I wanted to get into for quite a while. Even when I was doing NFL stuff, I got some opportunity to do that. I used to write for Sports on Earth back when that wonderful website
Oh,
still existed, and
yeah.
my editor there, he was like, "Hey, it's about to be WrestleMania season. Do you want to like write some WWE stuff? Do you want to write some wrestling stuff whenever there's a big story or a big event coming up?" And I'm just like, of course. I mean, absolutely. So I was able to at least have an opportunity to do that at Sports
That's
on
cool.
Earth. But it was just something I always kind of wanted to break into. And then when I got an editor job, a full-time editor job at Fansided a couple of years ago, one of the things that they wanted is to build out their pro wrestling because I mean they have Daily DDT and they're like blog umbrella, but in terms of like fansided.com, like the main site, they didn't really have any wrestling content. So then when I came in, I just built that vertical up from scratch and
Oh,
recruited, like 20 writers and did a full content plan. We went from like nothing practically to, raw previews, recaps, for every show, covering breaking news, all the major news, all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of fortunate to get that opportunity. And then that, showed me how to build up a wrestling platform, how to build up a site, how to, increase viewership from, and readership from nothing to, I mean, it wasn't like wonderful, but it was absolutely something. I mean, it was pretty big. So that, that was a good opportunity because I was still doing NFL stuff for them and other sports, because I was sort of a general editor, but I was also pro wrestling editor. So it's been kind of an easy transition because the way that you would operate a sports media website, whether you're focusing on the NFL or Major League Baseball, or if it's pro wrestling or a mixture of both, or all these things, it's kind of similar, in how you would approach it.
yeah. I was a sports on Earth. I followed some of the guys that went from Deadspin over there.
Oh,
Real
nice.
Deadspin, real
Yes,
Deadspin, not
real
not the
Deadspin.
not the one we have now. Go to Defector. That's actually Deadspin, not
Yeah.
what's going on now. I could go on all day about sports media and the weird relationships there, but I won't.
Me too. I started in this game full time for Bleacher Report
Okay.
back in 2011 when they were trying to increase their quality and kind of pivot from like fan blogging to
Yeah.
what
Like
what they
prop.
what they are today.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of that transition. So I was brought in there to increase their uh credibility, if you will. So that's
That's
what.
awesome. And y'all did a great job. I mean, Bleacher Report is a behemoth these days
Oh
with
yeah,
BR
now it's like
Live.
it's as big as ESPN. It's kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
of where it was and where it is.
Yeah, I was just an OG like Deadspin fan, like one of the first viral posts. I think it was like Matt Leinart doing a beer bong at like
Oh
some
yes,
party.
yes, yes.
That was kind of the one that kicked us started everything there, and I was there till the bitter end and followed a lot of those guys over to Defector and the
Hmm.
places they went to. The Haters Guide to the Williams Sonoma catalog is required reading
It
in
is.
my
It's
house.
so good. Yeah, I'm glad that Drew was able to recover and
Oh
and
yeah.
and, and get that out again this year.
I did actually contribute to the Haters Guide to the MLB playoffs back years ago, and my submission actually made it in.
Nice.
Um, so I love that stuff. Maybe we'll have another conversation, just talk about like sports media and those
Oh my
relationships
God.
because that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I could
Let's
definitely
get
do that.
let's get back to wrestling. I want to talk
Yeah.
about the women's 100 real quick, and then we'll get into like indie stuff.
Mhm.
The women's 100 was just when, and maybe I don't pay as much attention to PWI as others don't, but like seeing like a solid list coming in it, what were there any like surprises as far as in that list that you were like, oh, that's cool, or oh, I didn't expect them to be in this list?
Um. Oh God, time is like a flat circle, so I can't remember anything.
Yeah, it is.
Um. But I just thought it. What really surprised me was just the overall process. I figured, people were kind of pounding their table for their people or whatever, but it was like a really chill. There's a really chill discussion, and it was one where we were picking nits. We were making sure that like if you're ranked 16, you're 16 and not 17 for a reason.
Yeah.
So it was a really thorough process. So I think the process more than anything was what was surprising to me, of just like this isn't just some arbitrary list of like, oh, pro wrestlers, like it doesn't matter, like let's just rank this person here, so such. No, it was an hours long discussion of really trying to get it right, and get, put it where it should be, and trying to do everybody justice. We're not sitting here just focused on WWE, NXT, AEW, and some more prominent indies. I mean, we're
Yeah.
making sure that important wrestlers in Europe and Japan and in Mexico are being recognized, and that various champions are being recognized, even if they might not be the most familiar to the broader audience. So I thought that was really great. That the goals for like inclusiveness and well-roundedness of the list, I think is I mean it's a lot of work. So
Okay. Who are some of your like favorites on that list? Like, give me one or two, or two or three.
Oh, well, Thunder Rosa, who we already
Of
mentioned,
course.
she's
Yes.
fantastic. Kylie Ray, who is coming back at least in some sort of
Yes.
capacity this year. So it's going to be great to see her in the
Yeah.
ring again. Um, Britt Baker, I mean, she's just really turned the corner in the past
Yeah.
year plus in terms of character development. Her being a heel and the way that she plays that character is just so
so
effective.
so it works.
It works so well. So yeah, I mean, there's I could I could list off 100 names.
Yeah, Kylie Ray. She'll be back, I believe, in the Warrior Stadium series that they did
Yes.
last summer, and she departed. Citing stuff going on with her life,
Mhm.
and we all kind of thought, okay, that's it, she gone, and then she's like, oh, guess who's coming back. I have seen videos of just her entrance at like AIW shows of them like blasting the Pokemon song, and
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh. Yeah, I live in Chicago,
oh,
and freelance wrestling is like my home promotion. So I see
okay,
Kylie a lot in
yeah,
person, and experiencing that kind of crowd reaction in person is just,
oh,
it's so cool. I mean, Chicago loves Kylie, period.
I'm sure. I'm gonna quickly name drop here. I talked with Alex Shelley last summer
Mhm.
prior to the Black Label Pro TurboGraps tournament.
Yeah.
And I had said, we were talking back and forth about like the Chicago area and France, and I was like, hey, I feel like Chicago's kind of like Kylie Ray territory. And he kind of threw back, no, I still think it's like CM Punk and Cabana territory. And we kind of like disagreed a little on that.
I mean, if Cabana shows up at a freelance show or at any show in Chicago, I mean, everybody's going nuts because it
Yeah,
is.
that.
He's a Chicago guy for sure.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh
his
yeah.
town. I mean, and regionally, I always see people lament about like the territories, and I'm like, we have the territory system now. It's
Yeah, we
just all
really do.
online. You can just see everything. I'm in New England. I'm in Connecticut.
Mhm.
I always am big on like I feel that New England has the talent and we're the hotbed. But Chicago, I mean, you've got freelance, you've got AIW, you've got like some really talented folks out there. We have a mutual
Yeah,
friend.
I think the Midwest is the best
Okay,
territory.
it's yeah. When I talked with Val Capone, who is like a in real life friend of mine,
Yeah,
we
same
were
here.
friends. Yeah, we were friends through roller derby first before wrestling.
Oh, cool.
And we had a chat and we talked about, look, there is some talent out there. The fact that freelance took the scramble match and made it like this thing that was their own, and you start seeing it in other shows. Other
Hmm.
shows here have done an opening scramble match.
Hmm.
When you can set trends, you have something special going on out there.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, freelance is wonderful. I can't wait until
Yeah.
it's safe to run a big show again and see all my friends. I miss my friends.
Yeah, I will say for one, and I'll shout out one of your towns real quick, and we may talk about others. I sometimes agree with GPA. I'm
Mm.
sorry.
I
Some
I
it happens
So do I.
sometimes.
So do I. I frequently agree with GPA, begrudgingly.
It
Yes.
just hurts. It hurts, right? It just hurts.
It hurts a little. At
Me.
least I'm not out here agreeing with Frank's a clown. So
Oh no,
no,
nobody agrees. No,
no.
that's a no. Banned. No. Um, and speaking of like COVID pandemic, what's it kind of like for you? And I kind of have been asking the question to everybody.
Mhm.
What's it like to kind of stay in the right headspace when we like? Do you remember the last show you went to before the world shut down?
Yes, I do. I went to Black Label Pro
Okay.
on Leap Day on February 29th. Went out to Crown Point, Indiana, and then came back home and watched AEW pay-per-view, which was actually taking place here, but I didn't. I was in between stuff. I couldn't go. But yeah, that was it. That was my last show, and that was the last time I actually went anywhere or left my house until late February of this year when I got a haircut. So
Oh,
I've been locked down, like literally locked down for a year.
oh, geez. And
Yeah.
it's just, and is, I mean, I gotta assume it's just tough to, I mean, wrestling is kind of coming back and like Beyond's doing shows and they're handling those really well. I went to the
Mhm.
last show. It was temp checks at the door, DC and the crew there. Everyone had their masks on. No one had to be told anything, no issues. Um, it's to stay in the right headspace it's been tough for everybody.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a rough year.
Yeah. So as we move into this new normal or post COVID world, what have been some shows or some maybe some matches that you've seen in the past, say, 3 months that have really stood out to you?
I've really enjoyed a lot of things that happened at the collective. For the Culture
Yeah.
was incredible. Anytime you get
Yeah.
to
That's
see
just
Too Cold Scorpio
yeah.
is wonderful. Janela Spring Break, or RS Spring Break, that was um I mean, like, Janela beating Chris Dickinson clean.
Yeah.
That was surprising to me.
Yeah.
Um, Moxley showing up to confront Nick Gage after Nick Gage,
Yeah.
of course, it was just like we've been sitting here for months, like, okay, Nick Gage is going to get his hands on Ricky Shane Page. It's going to happen. And then he gets that calf injury and had to get surgery. And then we've just
Yeah.
been waiting like almost a year and a half for that payoff, you know? And
Yeah.
in the meantime, like, essentially 440, they've like become, you know, the most hated heels in all of indie wrestling. It's been incredible, like the work that they've been able to do without Nick Gage being available for so long,
Yeah.
and be able to maintain that heat. So I gotta like hand it off to them, you know.
Uh,
And I gotta do hats off to Atticus Kogar too, because the way that he's transformed himself into a really effective deathmatch wrestler. He just did his first one, I think, last summer, and one of
yes.
those like Atlantic City boardwalk shows, and now it's
Yep.
just become his bread and butter, and he's quite good at it. So, you know, hey, congratulations, we've got another promising young deathmatch wrestler.
Yeah, and then Moxley just strides out.
Ah, I screamed in my living room. I screamed, and it was pretty late at night, so like I'm sorry to my neighbors.
It was, when he departed from WWE, his first independent dates after he was done with Japan, because he went and did like the G1
Mhm.
and did his stuff over there. Northeast Wrestling, which has kind of been, now it's weird. I'm in Connecticut, and Northeast
Mhm.
Wrestling has kind of been the long-standing promotion around here.
Sure.
But they're not like, they've been around for 20 plus years. They bring in the big names. Like they've had the only match between the Hardys and the Young Bucks. Um, they had Moxley's first few independent dates in the US.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in this gym, his first match post in the US, post W, was against Darby Allin. It was the first time I guess they had met. When he walked out in this PAL gym in Waterbury, Connecticut, the place blew up.
Oh, I
And
bet.
that was two summers ago. And he's just, ever since he's left WWE and kind of established kind of the John Moxley we see now, I think he just wants to wrestle wherever, and AEW is just going to have to schedule around it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there's anything that AEW can really do about that because he is John Moxley. And like I mean, but he's earned the right to do whatever he wants. He seems like he's having the time of his life.
Yeah.
So then that's the most important thing because you know, all those interviews he did after he left WWE, just that he was just so beaten down and so miserable and had no creative, you know, motivation or direction. So this has got to be just a great time for him.
Oh yeah, I mean, lately here we've got Limitless has been running the road,
Mhm.
which has been solid week to week content.
Yes.
Beyond's getting back into their next shows next Thursday, like we talked about. I will be at that show.
Awesome.
They've got a WWR show in a couple weeks. I will be at that show.
Nice.
It's just nice to get back to wrestling and seeing, the folks we see at shows that we become friends with, and just seeing the wrestlers get back to doing what they want to do. I mean, like watching the collective, like seeing how people like Billy Dixon and like someone like Billy Starks is
Mhm.
developing, and someone like Amasha Slamovich, who's been on a heater since she's come back to the States. I
Yeah.
think she's lost only one match.
Yeah.
Seeing the I don't want to say explosion, the the coming out. I don't Edith Surreal,
Oh,
formerly known as
yes.
Still Life, with
Yeah, Edith
Abercrombie.
Surreal is having a wonderful 2021.
That match with Dark Sheik back at
Yes.
the collective. I mean, that was instant when that hit. That was like match of the year stuff. How and I always say, like, you don't watch Still Life, Edith Surreal, you experience.
Yes.
How did you kind of take that in when you first started seeing her wrestle. I don't want to mess up her pronouns, their pronouns. So I'm just throwing both out.
So like the first time I saw Still Life and I was like, what is this? Like, what is this concept? I thought I was just like, it was one of those things, and there are quite a few people now in indie wrestling that kind of make you think about the different things that pro wrestling can be. Effie, MV Young, they're kind of on the cutting edge of that as well. And to have something like Still Life and Blank, and have that be so like conceptual, that it's beyond a character, it's a concept, it's a whole storyline in and of itself, regardless of what matches are happening, or you know what I mean. So I was just really impressed with that concept of just like, oh, okay, cool, like this is what pro wrestling can be. I mean, because we've seen it with Chikara before, because there's a lot of interesting characters and weird stuff that like you wouldn't know, that's like not normal, when you think of pro wrestling, but yeah, it's just I love the high concept stuff. I love the well thought out stuff. I love the people who really do look at it as a physical art and a physical art form, and I strongly appreciate that. And I'm the year right now that Edith Surreal is having, fantastic. Definitely the best of the career.
Yeah, I mean the match with Dark Sheik, the recent match they had on Frog Sport, Camp Leapfrog with Masha out in the snow.
Out in the snow.
I mean, it's people. I had probably around 0203 I stopped watching like WE and like TV stuff because I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And then like I found Chikara like 0304 and I was like, oh, wrestling can be fun and interesting and not what you see for 3 hours on Monday night every week. And that I feel like sometimes people tend to forget about, that it can be fun and it can be challenging. And when folks like Effie, you said MV Young, like if you told me 3 or 4 years ago that we would have an event called the Big Gay Brunch,
right,
I would not have. I maybe might have believed you, but I didn't think anyone could pull that off.
I would have thought, oh, okay, so it's wrestling and it's the Big Gay Brunch. So is this like a mockery? Is this you know what I mean? Like, because like if 10 years ago or something, if you had an event like that, you'd think, oh, like this is some like heel doing a show mocking like some queer wrestlers or something, and it's just like some,
which would
like,
be
pathetic storyline,
Yeah, which would be extremely problematic and in very poor taste.
Yes, and probably something that would have happened because Jesus, like, the history of homophobia in pro wrestling, we all know.
Yeah.
I mean,
not a great track record.
Not a good track record. So yeah, it's very exciting. I also thought it was funny when that one guy from that one website that I'm not going to name like wrote that thing about Effie's Big Gay Brunch and was like, you're gonna get taken out of the street and beaten or whatever. Like he was like, Effie's gonna like take the homophobes in the street and beat them to death or something. And then Effie made a t-shirt out of it. I just thought that was very clever.
Yeah, also you're an Effie award winner.
Yes, I am.
As am I. It's back there. It's a very prestigious award.
Yeah,
I'm very proud to have it.
I am.
Effie's kind of just taken wrestling and just kind of made it his own between Monday Night Raw, the Big Gay Brunch, the Wrestling is Gay line, which I believe just launched. Or I don't know if it's a line or if it's a thing, but it's out there. And then it just irritates all the real wrestling fans.
Oh yeah, the real wrestling fans. It's just like I mean, I don't think there's anything realer right now than Effie. You know what I mean? Like he keeps it 100% of the time. And I mean, he's a marketing machine. He's brilliant. I mean, like there are a lot of people in pro wrestling who are brilliant right now. I'm one of those people. I think Joey Janela is a genius. And I think I think Effie is a genius. Genius.
Him like having drag queens at the show. He had Poyo Demar at a Big Gay Brunch. And I was like, I put it on Twitter and social media saying, hey, if you're a promotion, why not have like a drag queen hosting your promotion? If
drag and pro wrestling, it's so perfect together. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I mean, it works.
And if it doesn't work with your crowd, hey, you can say you tried, but at least give it a shot. I would love it if a promotion up here beyond Limitless. I think Limitless is probably probably the best place for that to happen, because
Sure.
that's the way that crowd is. Probably Beyond too. I think Beyond would be cool with it.
Mhm.
Certain places up here, I don't know, but I would say let's do it because I just had a good time watching that show.
Yeah, exactly. They had drag performance at MV Young's Polyam Cult Party 3 as well, and it's just like all worked, just worked.
How is MV Young so good at this? What is your assessment of?
It's he's got natural charisma,
Yeah.
and he's got an entertainer's mindset, but he's also out there trying to do something. He has a vision. He has a goal. He has goals. And it's not just being a champion, which obviously he is, but he's got a whole, like, he comes up with things that other people don't think of. It's along the same lines as like as Effie, and I just love that creativity, and the charisma can't be beat. I mean, it's just
Oh yeah.
he attracts the crowd. I mean, that's why he's the polyam king.
The kid, yeah. I mean, he's one of. I mean, I had been like seeing his social media presence, and then when I saw, like, he's gonna be an event, I was like, all right, let me watch this. And as a wrestling fan, I've always like, what's next? What's the next thing that's gonna get my attention?
Mhm.
He walks out, and I was like, oh, there it is.
There it
I
is.
didn't even need to hear him talk. Didn't need to see him wrestle. There it is.
Yep. Yeah, he just has it. He has it.
Just,
He has that presence.
the capital I, capital T.
Yes.
And in general, what as you move forward now, let's you have Pickle Talk coming.
Yes.
What is Pickle Talk for those who may not have heard of it or don't follow you? They're gonna follow you.
The better.
What do they need to know about Pickle Talk?
Pickle Talk. So we've only done a couple episodes, and then we kind of took a little break because just some like life and scheduling stuff got in the way.
Life
But
happens.
I think it's coming back tomorrow, depending on life and scheduling. So basically, me and my fiance Brian taste a different type of pickled vegetable, pickled item, and
Okay.
talk about the biggest wrestling stories of the week. So, and
Okay.
it's a shorter format kind of show, you know, maybe like 15 minutes, because we're just eating a couple pickles, talking about the pickles, we review the pickles, and we
Okay.
also talk about some of the biggest stories in pro wrestling for the week. Basically, it just combines two things that I love, which are pickles and pro wrestling. And so I was just like, why not? Why not review pickles and talk about pro wrestling? Like, what's stopping me? Like, literally nothing.
Exactly.
I've got an internet connection, a YouTube subscription, and a ring light. We're good to go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm loving all like this food related content. Like we've had Erica Lee with her candy reviews, and I've had her on a number of times. Big Dan Champion's got his chugging. Jeff
Mhm.
Cannonball's got his soda reviews. I think Veda Scott's doing something with mustard.
Mustard,
I,
I think. Yeah.
I'm not super into mustard. If it's anyone else's thing, go for it. And you've got Pickle Talk.
And I've got pickle talk. Yeah.
Actually, big wrestling stories of the week. This whole Pinnacle Inner Circle deal. What is your assessment of how this is going to how this is developed and where it's going?
I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously, it was pretty clear that once MJF had infiltrated the inner circle, that was going to cause something. You know, that was going to cause a rift. Obviously, you know, there was an issue with Sammy Guevara there. I didn't know it was going to end up being his whole separate faction, so that was good. I mean, that was an element of surprise, and I know that they've been wanting to do the blood and guts match for quite a while now, for over a year now, and it was going to be what, Elite versus Inner Circle, or
I believe that was the original.
that was the original plan. So you know, I'm glad that they've swung back around to it. I think it's really fascinating, man. People just like, you want to, okay, yeah, Jericho, like when the Inner Circle were definitely heels, like you wanted to boo Jericho, but you never really want to, because he's just so entertaining and engaging. So it makes sense that they're back to being baby faces. It's amazing how quickly that was embraced, though. It's just as soon as MJF is just like, I'm doing this, everybody's like, yep, Inner Circle, we're chanting for them immediately. And it was like, I was like, wow, that was fast. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be gory, and I like that AEW is embracing the occasional use of very dramatic blood and putting it on TNT, and that TNT is like, fine, do it, go ahead.
Yeah, go nuts. Now the other kind of wrestling related, tangentially related, is that Turner has picked up the NHLB package.
Yes.
So they have signed. I don't know how long that deal is for. I know it's for a number of years because the NHL is looking to lock down long term, TV
Mhm.
partners. So they have now ESPN will have the main package. Turner will have the B package. Do you, just in your professional opinion, do you think this will affect Dynamite? Would they, because Wednesday seems to be like an NHL night, so they don't bump up against other things happening?
Mhm.
Is this something you think will affect Dynamite? Dynamite may have to move or be preempted on some weeks or be pushed to a later start time.
I think it's going to result in Dynamite having to, at least for part of the year during the hockey season, potentially just only during that part, having to move from Wednesday eventually. Tony Khan doesn't think that's going to be the case. He's like, we've got a really great contract. It calls for Wednesdays at TNT. But if they make us a really good offer and put something in it for us, then if we have to move, we have to move. And I think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to have to move, and then we're probably going to get to talk about NXT ratings versus AEW ratings.
We'll be back in that mess again,
Yeah,
which is
all of a sudden, you because you're a wrestling fan, you're a television ratings expert. Oh,
yeah.
that's the
I
nature of the beast, though, man.
it
Everybody
is.
wants to know everything, right?
It's like I'm one of these TV nerds. Like I own like 3 books about like the business of TV.
Sure.
But I've never like like I understand ratings and demographics, but I like it from a purely like data standpoint because I'm
Mhm.
like one of these sports analytics nerds. I enjoy it from that perspective, not who did better, because those numbers can be subjective because you're looking at, okay, there's this time of night, there's that night, there's all this other stuff coming on. Just watch what you want, enjoy what you enjoy. Speaking of enjoyment and more AEW talk, and I'm trending this way just because Darby Allin's been main eventing a Dynamite the past 2 months,
Yeah.
and each of these matches has been an absolute just killer.
Yes.
He's just he's last night, especially against 10. Um, I mean, I've knew him from when he worked independence out here. I don't know how much you saw him in the Midwest. What has been your absorption of Darby Allin as he's grown into this? He seems to be kind of like one of their guys.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, when they signed Darby Allin, they signed Orange Cassidy, and then, you're just like, okay, they're going to have television in these arenas. What are these crowds like? What are the reactions going to be? And, and you hope for these guys because you root for these guys before they've gotten to AEW, before they've gotten these contracts. You root for them, and then you see that the fans get it,
Yeah.
and they see it, and they know it, and they know what is good and what works and what they love and what they can relate to and what they can connect to. And so I think that ability in Darby Allin, I think that's really great that they were able to see that in him and that he was able to bring that part of himself out there. He seems so natural on
Yeah.
television. I mean, him being paired with Sting is a huge deal. Sting is one of the biggest legends in the history of the business. So
Yeah.
that's a huge thing for AEW to have that confidence in him, for Sting to be like, yes, I will work with this kid, of course.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that they're framing the TNT championship as
Yes.
the face of the network, and that they want Darby to have that belt, defend that belt, look great, main event every week. That speaks volumes for who he is as a performer, as a worker, as a person. So I'm thrilled, and every match has been so wonderful, and it's crazy that he can put himself through that much punishment week
Yeah.
after week and deliver these matches. I mean, he's delivering on this
Yes.
main event, status that he's got.
Yeah, it's great. Quick jump to NXT. My favorite thing happening on NXT right now is this like Dexter Loomis, Indy Hartwell,
Yeah,
uh,
romance, if you will, I
ro-
guess, in a loose sense, I suppose.
I guess it just started with like Indy making some like comments, and everyone's like everyone kind of perked up, and I was like, okay, and then it just like progresses and progresses, and you're just like, how is this one of the best things, along with MSK, on NXT every week?
Yeah, I think it's because they make it work with like their weird personalities, and there's like they just these little subtle, like acting skills that they have that like make it entertaining. Because otherwise, I mean, there's a potential there for a storyline like this in a company like that to be like awkward or even, frankly bad.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed with what they're doing with it. I think, there's a like undercurrent of comedy to it as
Yeah.
well, you know. I think that that only adds to it and just makes it more interesting, more
Yeah.
complex. But yeah, MSK, man.
So good. I mean, I was a fan of them in Impact as the
Oh yeah,
Rascals.
oh yeah,
When they departed, I was like, I knew that Dez and Wentz were probably headed to NXT because
yeah. They had like a handshake deal or something
yeah,
like that.
apparently it was like, they were told whenever you're ready, come
Yeah,
on. I wasn't sure if Trey was going to go with them. I didn't think Trey would. I figured he'd probably pop up in AEW, but he seems to have, I don't know if re-signed with Impact, but he's still there. But
yeah,
when they showed up, and I was like, if this is done correctly, they are going to become one of the darlings of the tag team division. And here we are.
yeah. No, I'm glad they're the champions. That was a really, that was the right move when they had to kind of scramble after the injury
Yeah.
and crown new champions. I'm glad it's them. I'm glad they're so talented. They're young, but they are quite experienced for their age. And why not fast track them to the championship? That was a Triple H and them and Shawn Michaels and whoever made that decision. They good on them. That was kind of a bold thing to do for a brand new tag team.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I think in sorry to I
oh
cut you
no,
off there. Oh, and I feel like in general, NXT now, because they had people leave and people come up and they've signed a bunch of people, NXT is kind of where it was in that 2012, 2013 when they were really kind of blowing up for the first time because they've had to reset NXT.
yes,
And now you have this whole crop of new folks on both sides. I mean, you've got Shotzi and Embers, the tag team champions. You have a robust women's division. That women's
hmm
division is
it's
solid.
fantastic. Yeah,
Seeing Raquel as champ, I was like, awesome. That's just
yeah, it's
I
the
thought
right
it was
decision. That's absolutely
yes.
the right decision.
And just women's wrestling in general has just seen is in this really great place, especially here in the Northeast. I mean, we've got like,
Oh yeah,
we've got like Solo and Willow, Solo Darling. I'm a big fan of. I got her hat over there,
nice.
over. It's probably fine hat. Just you've got like Erica Lee, Jordan Blade, who I had a chance to talk to. Just who are some women that you've seen and watched and enjoyed that are on independence that you are on the way up that maybe people haven't heard of or maybe some have heard of but don't know their names yet.
Definitely Willow and Solo. I know. I'm sure that obviously they get a lot of play because they work for a lot of companies that have a lot of exposure, relatively speaking. But yeah, Willow and Solo. Um, See, you put me on the spot that my brain completely. I'm just like, I don't know who any wrestlers are. What are we talking about? I've never watched wrestling a day in my life. Let's see. Um, well,
Yeah,
I would have said Elena Black, but now she's signed
yeah,
to NXT as Cora Jade. But I think that's a huge signing.
yeah,
She's I mean, she's only been having matches for like 2 years now, maybe.
yeah. Fairly,
Because
that was
she's based here at Freelance. She was actually trained at the Freelance Academy out here. So yeah, she's like 19 or something. I mean, she's very young, and she just got a couple of opportunities and made the best of them. And all of a sudden, NXT. Same
yeah,
thing with Priscilla Kelly, Gigi
yeah.
Dolan.
GL.
I think that's a really interesting signing. I think that's really interesting that she's got an NXT contract, and I'm really curious to see what happens with her.
Yeah, they I don't want to say take, but they took one of our best in Christian Casanova. I
Yeah,
had a
I
chance.
know.
I had a
Yeah,
chance to.
and they took
uh,
Alex Zane too.
Yeah, what? Yeah, they got Alex Zane. I had a chance to talk to him probably about a month before the word got out that
Yeah.
he had signed. And he had been a big part of the independents like Northeast Wrestling and Beyond shows. His
Mhm.
star blew up at Beyond Wrestling, and he's so talented. I'm so happy for him. I hope we see him debut soon.
Yeah, I just worry that they're going to be part of the group that kind of gets like stockpiled and warehoused
Uh,
rather than like, especially because they're obviously not running like the Florida circuit right now,
anymore. Yeah,
NXT. Yeah, they're not doing that right now. So it's just like, I know it's hard for people to get opportunities when there's just the one show a week. So hopefully as things start loosening a little bit in a hopefully safe manner, then maybe we can start
yeah.
getting these guys in some matches and seeing them again because I miss them.
Yeah, just getting back to stuff. I've got, yeah, like I mentioned, Erica Lee, Jordan Blades, another great women's wrestler. Nice to see Chris Statlander come back. She had a really rough
Yes.
injury, knee braces back. And she looks like she's like bulked up a bit and is
Yeah,
ready to
she
go.
looks in great shape. So that's exciting. It's exciting to have her back. She's probably my favorite women's wrestler right now. So it's been sad not having her around, and it's great that she's back. She looks great. So
Yeah, and solid match last night with Penelope Ford. Got the
yes,
the victory boop.
yes. And
I
we need more Penelope Ford matches on
yes,
AEW because she's so talented.
she is. I feel like, yeah, she really hasn't had a chance because everything going on. Maybe they kind of slide her in somewhere.
Yeah.
So as far as freelance and those shows, is there anything happening? Are there any shows coming? What's or is
Um,
Illinois kind of locked-ish down or
I mean, we're doing better because obviously, vaccine rollout has gotten better.
yeah.
Freelance Underground, which is like the sister or almost developmental, but not entirely, sister promotion of freelance wrestling, just tweeted, I think today, that they have a return show that they're about to announce. So that's going to be coming
Awesome.
back in Chicago. The Warrior Wrestling Stadium Series returns starting on June 5th, and that's like out in the suburbs here. So it's slowly coming back. Zello Pro, I think they ran a show a couple months ago here in Chicago, and I think they're running one in Milwaukee
Okay.
coming up here shortly. So some Midwestern stuff is slowly coming back. But I would say that Midwestern wrestling in particular, um, it's been a lot of hibernation over the past year. They haven't been doing as much in terms of like the outdoor shows that GCW and Beyond um, and No Holds Barred and all
Yeah.
that they've been doing. So, but we might be seeing some more outdoor stuff happen in Chicago this summer. I hope so because I just want to go to a show.
Yeah.
I just
And I
want to
try
go to a show. I'm
I
fully
mean,
vaccinated. I'm
yeah.
gonna wear a mask. I hope it'll be outside, and I just want to go to a show.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy watching freelance shows. I'm trying to get out there maybe end of this year, next year. I know
Cool.
Val, I have other friends out there. I want to get to a freelance show because they're just the venues that freelance ends up in are like really
Yeah, it's
solid.
the Logan Square Auditorium. It's right down the
Yeah.
street from me. It's a really great venue. I love the way it's set up there. I mean, it looks great. Like you watch it on IWTV.
Yeah.
It that intensity and that kind of a crowd. That's what it is like there. I mean, it translates really well on camera. So
No, it really does. Like I remember, I forget, it was one of the shows that started kind of late. I think it started at 10 or 11 here on the
mhm.
East Coast and was starting late there. But I think the first match was like the Space Monkeys versus, I think it might have been like Violence is Forever before I think when they were in a sad camp. And it was just this
Oh
really
yeah,
intense,
yeah, it might have. Yeah, that's true.
just
Or
this
it could
really
have
intense.
been Anthony Henry and JD Drake because they've spent a lot of time here too before they moved
Yeah.
on to their respective contracts.
Yeah, it could have been that too. I mean, Beyond is in its the White Eagle, which is
Mhm.
a banquet hall in Worcester, Mass, with a
Oh yeah,
wood
yeah.
panel with the wood paneling and the valences.
I
It's
love watching that building. It looks like a wonderful place to see a wrestling show.
it is a second floor of it's this banquet hall. The bottom floor is like a bar, but it's downtown Worcester, which is in the midst of being redeveloped. So there's a lot of construction.
Uh-huh.
The road that runs out front wasn't paved for like almost ever. It's paved now.
Oh geez.
But yeah, it's a second floor. You go upstairs, and then they got the ring and the stage, this kind of locker room area. But it's this very like old school. People call it homey because it
It
feels
is
very.
kind of homey, yeah.
But it's a fun show. We'll be there next week. Andrew, think the one I actually wanted to briefly talk about a little bit in terms of news and stories.
Sure.
Like in terms of women wrestling and this whole like issue with Mickey James and the trash bag. What was I can what was your take when all of that kind of came out?
Well, I mean, I know that Mark Carrano has been kind of a problem for some workers in WWE for a while, particularly women. So him losing his job over this, I mean, it sucks that he lost his job over this because after Mickey James was tweeting about it, Gail Kim and a few other women were like, oh, this happened to me. This happened to me. This happened to me when I left. This happened to me when I left. I got a trash bag. I got a trash bag. You know what I mean? So it's not like the first time that this has happened.
Jesus.
And that it's not just Mark Carano's problem. It's a culture. You know, we've heard so many different stories about just the sometimes it feels very bad to work there. That people have had very bad experiences, and that women in particular haven't been treated very well there. Certain women, depending on, you know, what Vince or what the men who work there are deciding what an attractive woman is, or what a strong woman is supposed to look like, and you can't be too strong, or you can't, or like, you know, everybody's trying to pitch Mickey James storylines about how she's old, and she's 2 years older than me. She's not old, you know.
No.
So the whole thing is very disappointing, but I'm glad that Mickey and a lot of these, you know, other and former WWE superstar women are like a bit more open to talk about these things. But as Mickey James noted, I think like in the podcast she did like yesterday, that the person who made her feel the worst and like nothing and treated her like crap at WWE is still employed. So, you know, she understands why they had to fire Mark, but like there are more people there than just him who are the problem.
The problem, yes, is bigger. It's a culture problem. You kind of I tweeted yesterday about fixing things, and when there's shitty people, um,
Yeah,
let's start naming names, because that's the only way that things start getting better. And
exactly.
I understand like wrestlers' reticence to do that, because that can kind of get you branded a troll maker. But
Right.
I
Or you don't
think
want to burn bridges with a
right,
certain person or a promotion. But when we've had so many years of just people kind of being like, oh yeah, you know, that guy, watch out for that guy. And I'm just like, which guy? Like nobody's saying names.
exactly.
It's just like when people are like, you know that your favorite company is harboring a whole bunch of abusers. Your favorite indie is doing this or hires this person. You're just like, what indie? What person? What happened? Because otherwise it's just super vague to me. And I don't know. I'm sitting here not knowing who or what I'm supporting.
Right. It's, I mean, and it shouldn't have to get to like a critical boiling point.
No, it
Good,
shouldn't.
good example. And I'll only mention the promotion once. What happened with Synergy Pro?
Mhm.
Um, I I had interviewed said person and was developing a relationship, and then
Yeah,
I
same
went,
here.
and then and again, no issues. We had talked back and forth, and
Mhm,
I enjoyed um the folks that were getting work there. It was another place for talent to work.
mhm.
I wake up. I was on vacation that week. I wake up on a Thursday morning. I check my phone. I'm just seeing like, what in the
Yeah, I woke up that morning and was like what? Like wow, like because
and it
sometimes you
should
just don't have any idea who you're dealing with.
and it shouldn't we shouldn't have to get to that point. And I think we're getting at the point when you're looking at who's running promotions. Like
Mhm,
Limitless is run by like two younger folks. Like
mhm.
progressive people are running promotions. We can start outing the shitbags, because
Yes,
they can't the sway they have is going away.
exactly. And that's the only thing. I'm not saying like we need to be sitting out here just like blah 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 so and so, you know, and saying things about people and being really specific if we don't really know. But if there's somebody who's in like people who work in various promotions are like, well, this person's not going to get booked here, but then this guy books the guy. Like at some point, there has to be some sort of knowledge, accountability, because when we're just saying, oh, you know, this company is being problematic by hiring this problematic person, and then we don't really know who they're referring to, then it also
Yeah.
just creates speculation in your head. It's like, oh, is it this person? Is it this person? Is it the last person I expect? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a tricky subject, but at the same time, it's like if we're going to keep sitting out here being like, everybody's like, say their names and call them out, and then all we just keep doing is repeating that over and over again, and no one gets called out, then like
Yeah.
that's still not, you're not doing anything.
And it bleeds down, because you get to the point where like people don't want to go to shows, or people don't feel safe going to shows.
Hmm.
You know, I'm a big when I say stuff like wrestling is for everyone, I believe it. Like I know folks, you know, queer folks who don't feel safe going to shows. I've gone to
Yeah.
shows where I'm the only brown person in the audience. We need to get past that point. And it's not hard to do when we kind of start holding folks accountable.
Exactly.
Sorry, it got really heavy and I didn't want to end
No,
on
it's
that
fine.
note.
That's fine.
Um, and I'm going to jump back to something else real quick. How good is Deonna Purrazzo? Have you been watching Impact?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. I mean,
She's
Impact has a wonderful knockouts division. The women's division there is super, super talented. And
love it.
she has done a
Oh,
phenomenal job as
so good.
champion.
So
Yeah.
good.
So good.
So good. I get to see Kimberly at the Beyond show
Oh,
on
cool.
Thursday. So it's my second or third time seeing her at Beyond. She's great. Yeah. Deonna, I remember when they signed her to NXT. And I
Yeah.
was like, awesome, great. I mean, she was, she's a New England person, from the Boston area. I was like, good, technical wrestler. I remember like I went to NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4 and they did NXT taping beforehand and had her wrestle Bianca Belair right when Bianca was kind of just being introduced.
Yeah.
I was like one of three people cheering for Deonna. She lost. It was what it was. She does the coconut loop for a year. They don't put her on TV at all. And then they cut her loose. And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all?
Yeah. No, it's crazy because that, like, when she got signed to NXT, I mean, everybody was just like, man, she is like the best free agent prospect, free agent female wrestler prospect going at that time. At that
Yeah.
time, that was it. She was a standard. She was a standard. And it's kind of, sometimes when they miss and they miss so widely, it's like, wow, like, how do
And then
you
she
not see this?
Yeah, and then she walks in the Impact and has like a banger rivalry with Jordan Grace just right
Oh,
off the
gosh,
rip.
right off the bat, it was, yeah.
She's so good. And to quickly end again, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Aside from
Yeah.
pickles, what are some of like your favorite snacks? Because I always like to talk about snacks.
Snacks, okay. Gummy bears, but not
Okay.
Haribo.
Oh,
Albanese gummy bears. That's the best
okay.
gummy bear brand in the United States, in the world, because Haribo, I guess, is German. Get Albanese gummy bears. If you can't find them in your area, you can order them online. Albanese is based in Indiana. So those are that's the best gummy bear you can get. I've been doing a lot of coffee flavored oat milk ice cream with magic shell on top. You get like the
Oh,
magic shell, the stuff that freezes. Ooh, yeah, that's good stuff. Been doing that.
I've fallen into oat milk lately. When I get my occasional frozen coffee, I will like put oat milk in that, please.
Yeah, oat milk is good. Because
It is good.
I don't do any dairy, so except, like, I'll ruin myself with some cheese every once in a while, because
Jeez.
cheese.
Yes.
So I've been, going through all those plant milks over the years, and oat tastes great. So
It does.
yeah, so I recommend oat milk ice cream too, because it's just like, it adds that little like malty nuttiness, and it's good. It's
Okay.
good with sweet stuff.
Yeah, it is. I enjoy it. Andrea, thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at fball_Andrea. That's at FBALL_Andrea. It's a holdover from my NFL days. You can also find Pickle Talk on YouTube. You just search Pickle Talk, go to find it, like it, subscribe. We should be having a new show up soon, and I'll probably be reviving my pro wrestling Substack newsletter here soon. So that's called Works and Shoots. So it's worksandshoots.substack.com. So you can subscribe to that as well. And who knows where else I'll pop up. I'm open to
Yeah, so
anything.
yeah, support journalists. So Substack has been a good platform for folks to get their work out. I subscribe to a couple other journalists that I follow, so I'll probably jump in yours too.
Awesome.
And is there anything coming up wrestling wise that you're looking forward to, be it on TV or be it independent wise?
So this weekend, Jersey's Pro, what they're being revived by GCW, so they're doing their return show on May 1st, and then there's a GCW show that night. So I'm looking forward to that, because I'm just a sucker for GCW. And then I'm really curious to see what this announcement from Freelance Underground is going to be, and hopefully that'll come out soon, and might be able to get to a show in Chicago soon. And I need to get tickets for the Warrior Wrestling show on June 5th. It's the week before my wedding, so it's like my little party. That's gonna be my little
Okay,
party.
there you go. And one more thing before I let you go. So, like we talked about at the beginning of this, Wheeler Yuta versus Lee Moriarty for the IWTV title next Thursday night. I will be
Yeah,
there.
I did that.
Do you want
I'm kidding. I did not do that.
to? Do you want to give me a pick? Do you want to give me like a little preview, like some analysis, or do you want to just outright pick it?
I think Lee is going to retain. I don't think it's time yet for that to, but I don't think that this is going to be the end of Wheeler Yuta. I think that what's going to happen, I could imagine Lee winning cleanly, Yuta being like angry and humiliated by that and just coming after Lee every time he has a match until he gets another shot at it. And it's just I think it might be like the rivalry of the summer, potentially.
See, and you did it. You kicked all this.
Yeah,
off.
I did that. That's my fault.
Again, Andrea, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Pickle
thank you for having
talk,
me.
pickle talk. And y'all have a good evening.